What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several quick tips to hopefully help you play better in Fortnite's Godzilla update. As always, if you guys do find this video to be helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below how you feel about Godzilla. Would you rather be in a match where he spawns, or just rather not have him spawn in your match at all? And that's the first thing to cover, is that Godzilla is not going to be spawning in every match, but there's two different kind of indicators that Godzilla will spawn. The first indicator is if you're on the battle bus, you'll see kind of like a Kong animation that plays, and you'll see like Kong kind of teleport in, bang on his chest, and then teleport away. And then there will be Monarch supply dropped on the map from the moment the game starts. If that happens, then Kong or Godzilla will end up spawning 3 or 4 minutes into the game. So if you see Kong on the battle bus, it's guaranteed. However, you can still have Godzilla spawn without getting that Kong animation. So if you see Kong, it's 100% happening, but even if it looks to be a regular game when you're on the battle bus, Godzilla may end up spawning between 3 and 4 minutes into the game. So during first zone closing is when you'll kind of get the notification that Godzilla is spawning. The Monarch supply drops won't be on the map right away, but they will appear when Godzilla ends up spawning. And these Monarch supply drops I really don't think are that great. They end up dropping the railgun, the quad launcher, the airstrike grenade, and these items are kind of meant to be good against Godzilla, but I'd rather just use my regular gun, and we'll kind of get to that in a moment. There are 7 spawn locations the Godzilla portal can spawn at. I'll have them on screen now, but as you'll see, 5 of the 7 are on the right side of the map. So if you want to kind of maximize your chances of becoming Godzilla, consider landing somewhere on that right side of the map. And if you kind of get the opportunity to become Godzilla, I think it is best that you just take it, because even if your Godzilla is eliminated, you do respawn as your player character with the loot you had when you went in. So becoming Godzilla is basically just free time where you can get eliminations and get people out of the game and survive longer into the match without actually being eliminated yourself. So I think if you do get the option to become Godzilla, it is kind of best you take advantage of this. If you don't want to deal with Godzilla, you can just ignore him completely. So if you see that Godzilla is spawning, on the far side of the map and you don't want to deal with that, you can just not go over there and it's fine. That problem will go away. Godzilla can't actually make it throughout the entirety of the game unless it ends incredibly early. Godzilla's health bar constantly goes down, and then as people do damage to him, it goes down faster. So his HP is kind of like a timer, and then just doing damage to him makes that timer go by faster. So even if you hate Godzilla, you never want to deal with it, just don't go over there and you'll be fine. Personally, I think it is best to go and deal with Godzilla, because you have the chance to get the Godzilla medallion, which we'll get to later on. And then you also have a chance to take out a lot of the more proactive players in the lobby as they're distracted with this. So I think personally it's a win-win. When dealing with Godzilla, though, I like to have 2 mobility items. I mean, I like to have 2 mobility items all the time in Chapter 6. But when dealing with Godzilla, I think it's essential, because if he's paying attention to you, you just want to completely get out of there. I think the best mobility items to deal with Godzilla are going to be the Void Mask and the Kinetic Blade, because you get a lot of uses out of each of them, and your character goes decently far with each use. The Typhoon Blade is great movement for traveling around the map or fighting enemy players, but when you're dealing with Godzilla, you don't just like get out of there with the Typhoon Blade. It's more gradual, and that gives him time to track you and eventually eliminate you. And then also shockwaves are great for just, getting out of there, but they have very limited uses. So I feel like the Kinetic Blade and the Void Mask are great for dealing with Godzilla. I would like to have both. If I can only have one, that's great too. If I have like Void Mask shocks, I'm happy with that. But if I had my choice of any mobility, it would be Kinetic Blade and Void Mask if I am going to go to the Godzilla area. And I think if you are dealing with Godzilla, what you want to do is just stay behind him and stay decently far away from him. You don't want to get close to him. And then you want to kind of be on the edge of his range anyways. You get his health bar on your screen if you're able to deal damage to him. If you're super far away, you can't deal damage. It just doesn't count. But once you get close enough, you'll see his HP bar, and that's when you can actually do damage. I feel like it's kind of best to stay on that border and just kind of not really be involved in all the chaos and get your damage on him, and then hopefully get max damage. Pay attention to your ammo, though, when you are shooting at Godzilla, because you can run through it pretty quick, and you might just completely run out of ammo, get the medallion, and then not really have you know, an AR or an SMG to defend yourself. So be mindful of your ammo, and if you can, try to get a lot of it when you're initially looting up before you get to the Godzilla area. Shield bubbles can also be really helpful when dealing with Godzilla because you can throw it down and then he can't shoot his laser beam through the bubble. If he goes in there, he can get you, but like it creates a barrier that he can't, you know, bypass. So that's very good. The shield bubbles kind of counter him. The person who gets max damage on Godzilla will get his medallion, as I already said, and this is very good. The Godzilla medallion is basically the Cerberus medallion from Chapter 5, Season 2, where it gives you dashes over time. This is one of the best medallions we've ever had in the game, so I'd highly recommend going for it. You also get the exotic quad launcher, but I really haven't used that yet. So I would like to get max damage on Godzilla. I think this medallion is very good, and if he spawns in the game, this is my top priority. As I already kind of said, I just like to be behind him and be decently far away from him and then shoot at him with my AR. And the reason why you want to be really behind him is not just necessarily so he can't look at you and deal damage to you, hopefully, but also the purple spikes on his back deal bonus damage if you hit them. So I just typically want to get behind him, spray him with my AR, and get a lot of damage that way. And if you're focusing on the kind of chart showing you if you have max damage or an enemy does, that chart moves a lot when you're spraying those purple spikes. Don't just focus on Godzilla though. This is something that a lot of people make a mistake of, where they're just focusing the boss and then an enemy gets decent timing on them and eliminates them. And you might be of the mindset that like, hey, we should all work together to eliminate Godzilla. And that's, you know, fine, but you don't want to be the person that's of that mindset and then deal with somebody who's not of that mindset and who's just going to eliminate you. So I feel like it's one of those just like you got to deal with them before they deal with you. So if I see any enemy players, typically those dudes take priority to me unless Godzilla is actively looking at me. If Godzilla is actively looking at me, I'm getting out of there. But if I see an enemy and Godzilla isn't doing anything to me, I'm taking out that enemy and then I'm focusing Godzilla first. Not only does this keep you safe and, you know, reduces your chances of getting caught by that unfortunate timing, but also, as I already said, you kind of take out a lot of the more active players in the lobby by doing this, and that's going to make the rest of your game somewhat easier. And then you also don't want to have a bunch of people in this area once you get the medallion, because it's just going to make things harder for you. So deal with the enemies as you can, and while they're distracted with Godzilla, that's going to make your game a lot easier. I do kind of play the Godzilla fight one of two ways, though. If I get there somewhat early, or maybe there isn't really a player with a damage lead, then I will worry a bit more about getting damage to Godzilla. But let's say I get there a bit late, or maybe I'm fighting enemy players and then someone pulls really ahead on the damage race to get Godzilla's medallion. If I'm far behind or not really relevant in that race, then I'm just going to look for enemy players' bullet trails and then go and eliminate them while they're distracted with Godzilla, and then hopefully get the top spot that way. I have had this happen before where I wasn't going to win that damage race. The enemy player had such a lead on me, but I ended up dealing with the player who had max damage, and then I was able to get the medallion that way because I was the player who had max damage. Like, I was the one in second place, basically. So if you kind of notice that you're falling far behind in that race, or, you know, Godzilla is getting close to being eliminated and you aren't the leader, look for the other players shooting at him, because that's probably going to be the player in first. And then if you eliminate that person, your likelihood of getting it is higher, or you can eliminate them just as Godzilla goes down and then, you know, grab the medallion that way. After Godzilla is down, though, I think it's best to just completely get out of the area, because as I already touched on, the situation is very chaotic and there's often a lot of other players in the area, but there's also other people rotating to there. So I feel like you just want to get out of there. The circle for the Godzilla medallion is rather large though. So if you get it, it doesn't just like completely give away your location. This makes it even more powerful. If the circle was really small, it'd be easy for people to pinpoint your location. But the Godzilla medallion is rather large, doesn't really give your location away that much. So it's not as much of a downside to have it. If somebody else does get the medallion, though, I want to be chasing them as fast as I can out of the Godzilla area, and then hopefully keep pace with them as we kind of realize what direction they're going. But this situation can be so chaotic and things can happen so quick that they can still kind of slip through. But because that medallion circle is really large, I want to try to chase them as fast as I can, or be on them as fast as I can. That way I just don't completely lose them. This Godzilla medallion, as I already touched on, it gives you a huge advantage in fights because it gives you dashes. And there really isn't another way in Chapter 6 to get dashes. I said this before and people kind of got confused. There is a Godzilla shards that you can get to get dashes. They kind of fall off of Godzilla when you're fighting him. That is a part of the game and you can get dashes from them. But once you get into the later stages of the game, it's not likely that you're still in the area where Godzilla was fought. So once you kind of leave that area, those shards aren't going to be relevant to the game anymore. People aren't going to have them. And then once, you know, you get like a zone or two after Godzilla, you're going to be the only person in the game with dashes. And that's a huge advantage for you to flex, because not only does this give you an added mobility option in fights, since it's so infrequent to run into this, you're like, a lot of people aren't predicting it in the same way that they were in chapter 5, because in chapter 5 we had the green water all over the map. And so even if you didn't have the medallion, you could probably get dashes at some point or have gotten them during the course of the game. Whereas like the Godzilla shards just really aren't as prevalent as the green water was. And that's why I say that the boss medallion is going to be your main, basically your only source of getting dashes. So not only is it a huge advantage to have, the fact that other people don't have it, I think makes your advantage even better. And you can share this medallion with teammates. If you guys weren't playing in chapter 5 season 2, the medallion regenerates your dashes over time up to 3 dashes. And then once you drop the medallion, you'll keep the dashes until you use them. So if you're playing team game modes, you know, you could get your dashes, drop it to your teammate, they get their dashes, drop it to your other teammate, that person gets dashes. Having your entire squad or your entire team have these dashes is really effective, I think, because again, gives you a huge advantage in fights. If you're dealing with somebody using the Typhoon Blade, you can kind of dash to avoid fall damage if you're getting flung off of something, which is great. You can hopefully dash to maybe get out of their range, but the swipe attack on it is really good. If you're in a fight with somebody and you like shotgun, you can quickly dash to the side to hopefully dodge their shotgun shot. The dashes are incredibly good, and I'm sure if you played during chapter 5, you're really aware of this because the green water was in the game from chapter 5 season 2 onward, so it was like a huge part of the game. If you guys haven't played with dashes before, you basically just hit your jump button twice in the direction you want to go. So you can go sideways, forwards, backwards. You can do a lot of things with the dashes, and it's just very disorienting to deal with. And when you have the medallion regenerating them over time, you can use them as much as you want in a fight and just flex that advantage as much as you can on other players. And that is why I was saying that anytime Godzilla does spawn, I make it my priority to get this medallion or take out the person who got it as fast as I can. That way I can get it. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found this to be helpful, informative, interesting. As always, if you did, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. What do I do? Is all this? I don't want it to like crash because I changed all this shit in the middle of a game. This person is a human. And then also I'm not going to have aim assist. Just send me the replay file? Oh, okay. Last person is real. I thought that was the one that just TP'd on me. Okay, now I don't think I'll have aim assist. Deep dashes when you drop the coin? Yeah, the coin just allows you to regenerate them. And so when we had this in chapter 5, one thing that a lot of people would do would like drop it to their teammates. Nice. I thought gyro control was the only thing to make you lose aim assist. No, if you touch your mouse or keyboard, you lose aim assist. And I had to like touch my keyboard to take screenshots for my thumbnail designer.